This PetX Talk is brought to you by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations provided by Natura Pets, Project Blue Collar, and Dogwise Publishing. Are you ready to be empowered? Then join us for this PetX Talk.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marty Greer. I'm a veterinarian in Wisconsin and also am an attorney. Went to veterinary school at Iowa State and then to law school at Marquette. I've been in veterinary practice for 33 years, most of that time in small animal practice working with breeder clients. So I have a strong level of interest in dog breeding, dog pet selection, and working with breeders, both from the veterinary side and from the legal side. One of the reasons I went to law school was so that I would be more effective in working with breeder clients and in the veterinary industry. So I want to talk today about pet selection for people who are interested in obtaining a dog. There's a couple of different sources for those, and I'd like to discuss what your choices are. There's the breeder client who produces wonderful puppies. They breed dogs with particular breeds in mind. Most of them are purebreds, not all. Some are mixed breed dogs as well now we're seeing. And we also have the pet sources of coming from pet stores and from humane societies, rescues, and other organizations. So there's a lot of different choices out there for where you can obtain a new dog or a new puppy, and I want to kind of talk about what those differences are. For the clients who are interested in a purebred dog with predictable characteristics such as size, activity level, grooming, behaviors, health concerns, those are all things that we can do with some predictability when you work with a client who's been breeding dogs for a number of years and has particular genetics worked out. Those breeder clients are typically going to do health screenings on their dogs prior to the time that they're bred. So that's going to be things like hip x-rays for OFA or pen hip. That'll be eye screenings, which used to be called SERFs and now they're ERCs. There are blood tests for different kinds of genetic disorders and heart problems and just a variety of different disorders that we can see that dogs can develop as they become older. So what we want to look at is what exactly are you looking for when you obtain a dog or a puppy, so you can kind of think through this process. If you're looking for something that's more predictable, then you can go to the breeder client. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more reliable as far as how long it takes you to get a pet, sometimes going to a humane society, rescue, or to a pet store can be better. The pet stores will have reliable dogs and puppies as far as their genetics go. And in fact, a lot of the pet stores are starting to help breeders of those purebred dogs and mixed breed dogs to encourage them to do health screenings for those dogs as well. So you have a couple of choices with those. In addition, if you go to the Humane Society or rescue organizations, they're going to have dogs available immediately, so you won't have the wait that you'll sometimes have with a breeder, but there won't always be the predictability. You won't have the idea of exactly what they're going to look like or behave like as they become adults. You won't know exactly what their health screenings have been because most of those don't have any kind of background on where their parents were, what kind of genetics they carry. So there's some differences in that. Now, if you're looking to go with a breeder client, many times you're on a waiting list. You may identify a breeder through internet websites, through dog shows. There's a lot of different places that you can find breeders. More and more of our clients are now finding their puppies online through different websites and through different organizations. So it's no longer quite as word of mouth as it used to be. But oftentimes there's a longer wait with a breeder. A lot of breeders will have 1 or 2 litters a year, so you may be on a waiting list for a while. You may feel like you're getting interviewed for obtaining that puppy or dog, and that's not an unusual situation if you're working with a breeder. The humane societies usually also have some screenings, but usually with a shorter wait because you're going to be looking for something that you can walk in and go down the aisle of the humane society, the rescue organization, see a couple of dogs, kind of work with them a little bit, see which one you want to try to take home. So there's less wait, but it's a little bit of a different situation, a different dynamic. You may get to meet that dog, but you won't necessarily get to meet relatives of that dog. The nice thing about working with a breeder is that you many times can meet the mother, oftentimes the father, and then you'll have a much better idea of what kind of behaviors, what kind of activity, and so forth you're going to have with those. So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach what kind of dog you want to obtain. So breeders will want to work with you on those. They want to make sure, a breeder client's going to make sure that when you take a puppy home or a dog home, that you're getting the right dog that's going to work out for them. For your family, they don't want you to be unhappy with your puppy. If you have a problem, they're often available to contact if you're having any kind of concerns with training or behavior or any health concerns. So they'll be available to you. The pet stores and the rescue organizations are going to be in a different position than that, so they're not going to be there to kind of back you up. Breeders oftentimes want to make sure that you're so happy with the puppy that if you can't keep that dog or that puppy, if something changes in your lifestyle, that you'll be able to take the puppy or adult dog back to them. The other thing that a lot of breeders will do is they may have adult dogs that they've used for breeding programs or show purposes, competitions that they'll then place as adult dogs. So you may not always have a puppy as an option, but you may sometimes want to come out with an adult dog. So in the long run, you have a lot of different choices on how you can select your next dog or puppy. You want to think carefully about it. You want to take your time. Impulse purchases of dogs or puppies are generally not a good idea. Also, gift purchases are not. So before you make a purchase for someone else, you want to be sure that they genuinely want a dog or puppy. You don't want to surprise them for a birthday or for a holiday with a pet that they're not expecting. So you've got a number of different choices. You've got the breeder client, you've got the pet store, you've got the rescue and Humane Society options. They all have different strengths, they all have different weaknesses, so there are different places that you can go, different options. But do your research, make sure that you've met some of the dogs before you jump in, and make sure that you're set up to have a dog for a long-term commitment. Because when you take on a puppy or an adult dog, that's oftentimes a lifetime of 15 to 16 years for that pet. So you want to be sure that you're happy, your family's happy, and it works out to be the right pet for you. Thanks for watching.
We're here with Dr. Greer after a wonderful PetX talk. Dr. Greer, I wanted to ask you about the importance and advantages of knowing the genetics of the animals.
Sure, and that's a great question. There are lots of different tests that we have available to us now for health screening. And one of the, I think, confusing things for a lot of people is that they feel that perhaps breeders have created some of the health concerns that we see in our dogs today. I have a colleague who has been communicating with me about some fossilized skeletons that he found from thousands of years ago of the pre-dogs, and those dogs had hip dysplasia. Those pre-dogs had hip dysplasia, which is just really interesting because we kind of think that, gosh, the breeders haven't done as good a job as they should have in being careful with their breeding programs, so they've created hip dysplasia, seizures, allergies, all kinds of different problems. And in reality, that's not true. They're all there. No one's genetically perfect. My parents weren't genetically perfect. So unfortunately, in spite of all of our best efforts as breeders, the genetic problems are present. However, by knowing what they are and being able to screen for them, we're able to try to diminish the frequency that we see in those breeds. And so it just makes it a lot nicer for people who are looking for a particular pet to avoid a health problem. We'll have clients that will come in and say, my last dog had cancer, my last dog had allergies, my last dog had whatever, and they'll want to try their very best to avoid having that in their next dog, their next pet. So that's the advantage of some of the predictability and being able to use those testing and screenings. And we're seeing more and more screening tests come out every year. There are new DNA tests, new health screening protocols that we have to try and diminish some of the health concerns that we have.
We've seen throughout the pet world a bit of a breeder backlash, pet store backlash. I wanted to ask you your opinion. Is that misinformation? Are folks misguided? Give a little bit of insight into what we should be looking at on that issue.
Sure. And in certain parts of the country, there certainly is a dog overpopulation problem. In other parts of the country, it's very clear that we have an undersupply of dogs. And I know that's kind of surprising. When you look at the pet population problem, they tend to lump cats and dogs together. So cats need to be considered completely differently than dogs when we're looking at pet populations. But we know in many northern states, as in Wisconsin where I'm from, we don't have enough dogs to meet the supply, to meet the need of the pet owners that want to own dogs and puppies. So many of the dogs that we see in Wisconsin shelters and rescue organizations are coming in from out of state. So they're serving a great need. They're moving dogs from parts of the country where they have too many to parts of the country where we don't have enough. But on the other hand, there's still people like myself that like to own a dog that has predictable characteristics, predictable health, and I know what I'm going to end up with. I know when I get a puppy how big it's going to turn out to be. I know I'm not going to end up with a 75-pound dog in an apartment that can't accommodate a 75-pound dog. I know if my car, my lifestyle, my family can't accommodate a dog of that size or of a certain activity level or a certain amount of grooming, then I'm not going to end up with a dog that's not suitable for me. When I take a dog on, I want it to be for the rest of that dog's life. So it's really nice to be able to say, this is exactly what it's going to be, how it's going to act, and what I can expect. So those are the advantages to it for people who are really serious about knowing exactly what they're going to get. Other people, they're a little more laid back about what they have, but not everybody can do that. I see an aging population of clients. I have clients that are coming in when they're in their 70s and they want to get a new dog. Well, a new dog for someone who's 70 and is going to weigh 120 pounds just isn't going to work out very well. So it's better if they know what they're getting.
Well, thank you so much for doing such an interesting PetX Talk. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this PetX Talk. For more information on Dr. Marty Greer, visit SmallAnimalClinic.com. Funding for PetX Talks is provided by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations for PetX Talks is provided by Natura Pets. Natura Pets can help you optimize your pet's health with premium organic supplements from the Amazon and Andes Mountains. Visit naturapets.com. Dogwise Publishing, all things dog. For all of your expert dog book needs, visit dogwise.com. Project Blue Collar, Support the Underdog is a movement to publicly identify and celebrate the rescue dog. Visit projectbluecollar.com. Special thanks to Pet World Insider, taking you inside the world of pets. Visit petworldinsider.com for more expert radio interviews, articles, and videos. This has been a Pet World Media Group production.